Hey, just want to have a few comments here or some hints on your second exam. Before I do that, though, I just want to remind you also, as I'm recording this, hopefully all the exams are in for the first week. So I gave you a couple extra days if you needed it. If you were able to get it done on time, I wanted to go ahead and reward you, I guess you'd say, for that. But ultimately, hopefully, everyone came out with something that's pretty good. We have several more tests, so if you didn't do quite as well for whatever reason, there'll be plenty more opportunities to prove your skills. So, um, but for the rest of the time now, we're going to try to get back on schedule. So basically, each week during that week, so we start at week 3 now. You need to take care of the quizzes, the forums, and the articles. And by itself, that should take like half an hour or less, maybe. So that's not a huge commitment considering it's an 8-week course. But the bigger chunk, of course, of each week is studying. So I give you some articles and video lectures on top. Certainly the video lectures, I like you to watch all of those. And there's some other stuff. There's some longer articles, and they'll be useful, for example, maybe in answering especially the second question from on the week 2 exam and some other later exam questions. But you're welcome to use other resources and in fact encouraged to do so. So again, just each week you knock out that week's stuff. So if you haven't taken care of week 2, quickly go back. And I encourage you too on the forums, look through your classmates' contributions. Maybe even some articles they posted will be useful as you answer one of the exam questions. So, all right, to exam 2. The first question is essentially, it goes back to in the notes where I'm talking about GDP, and the personal or individual analogy is, well, just because you're rich doesn't mean you're happy. We all know people that are very wealthy but miserable, or miserable to be around anyway. Um, and we probably know some people that are wealthy and happy, and it could be a number of factors that drive happiness. So what we're trying to get at here is, and you can even Google, alternatives to GDP. But how do we quantify that? How do we put a number? So one thing we want to do is we don't want to just say that family is important. Well, how can we come up with a point system that would say, when someone gets married, that's plus 2 points for our economy. When someone gets divorced, maybe that's minus 3 points. So there's a little bit of risk in marriage in terms of the chances that it won't last until death do us part. And there's a lot of other things. So look at that list. A big one would be time, and some of these overlap. Some of them would be how we treat the environment. So there's, in some respects, we're looking at these trade-offs. To be wealthy, to go back to the individual example, to be wealthy, maybe it means you've got to work a lot, okay? 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. So you have a nice car, but you're just driving it back and forth to the hospital where you do your heart surgeries, which could be fine. Maybe that's gratifying, but most people would say I'd like to have some time for other things than work and making money. Okay, so when I did this in class recently, I can't. I'll just give you one idea, and you can build off this, or you can go something totally different. I said, well, what if we surveyed every person in America, or every household, maybe? And we came up with 5 categories. The first 4 begin with F. So um, the first one would be finances. So we'll say money is important. We don't want to say, let's just not work and just hang out. I mean, some people do that, but usually mom or dad are, footing the bills or something. So we still want to say finances, income is important. And we would measure that on a scale of 1 to 10. Are you content, maybe, or are you happy with your current income or wealth situation? And the next 3 are like my wife. Every time there's a craft that has 3 words on it, she buys it. So it'd be like faith, family, and friends. So we'd ask them, how do you evaluate your spirituality, your relationship with God, however we want to term that, from a scale of 1 to 10. And then what? Friends, faith, family. Okay, family. Okay, family again. How do you rank your family situation? Be it your, maybe your birth family if you're younger, or your spouse if you're just recently married, or spouse and children if you're at that stage, or maybe just yourself. Okay, and then your extended family, your siblings or whoever else may be a part of your life or not part of your life. Maybe it's a lower number. So faith, family, friends, how do you evaluate your relationships? So, I mean, you could come up with a different scale instead of 1 to 10. Like, for every Facebook friend you have, that's 1 point for our, some friendship or happiness index. So kind of have fun with this. And the last one, I think, time. Okay, so I ran out of words that start with F, but how do you evaluate your time, your leisure time, opportunities to do stuff that you want to do? Maybe it's kind of, hobbies and other things come in there. So that's just one system. You'd have these 5 categories, and then the way I would come up with a number for each household is I'd multiply those out. So if you had just say 7 in each category, you're doing pretty good in each one. 7 times itself 5 times 7 to the 5th, whatever that ends up at, that would be your number. So, and then we add that up with the whole economy, and that gives us some sense of how are people doing, And if you're really low in one category, a lot of people would just add them together, which would maybe work. But this idea, well, if you're really bad, like if you don't have any faith at all, then it doesn't really matter how your finances are going or your friendships. Or maybe you have great friends, but your family situation is really bad. So if you have one thing in your life that's really bad, it's hard to be happy even if the other 4 areas are rolling along. So, okay, so that's the first question. Again, just have fun with it. There's no right or wrong answer other than you got to write a page and kind of be interesting. For this one, yeah, you might cite a couple things if you go out on the web and kind of alternative measures of well-being or whatever, similar alternatives to GDP. Maybe try Googling that. The second question is more factual. Okay, so we have kind of one fun question, one factual one. And that's talking about employment and unemployment during the Great Recession, so kind of 2007, 2009, and then we're still feeling the lingering effects of that. We're pretty close back to relatively normal unemployment in terms of that number. But the deeper story, and one I want you to kind of research, is there's still a lot of people that are very long-term unemployed. There's some jobs that are just gone because they've been replaced by technology or foreign competition. And you can look at different demographic groups, people like yourselves coming right out of college or maybe in college. You could look at across different racial or gender groups. How are they doing? You can look at different areas of the country. And the second part of the question, well, what do you suggest the government could do to improve the job situation? So in the economic report of the president, there's this chapter. There's some others really good stuff. Later on, we'll touch on the education stuff. How can we train people, or how can we, so there should be, this would be a good one, especially to look through the newsworthy articles that your classmates post, maybe giving some ideas on how we look at not just the unemployment picture itself, but other related ideas like as you read through the notes. A lot of people are not unemployed, they just stop looking for a job and they are living with mom and dad. And so in a sense they are unemployed, but technically we just call those people out of the labor force, so they're not even trying to find a job. All right, hopefully that gives you some good ideas on that. So this test will be due this coming Sunday. I know it kind of sounds like a fast pace. Now we got a test every week, but it's like 2 pages, a page for each question, give or take. I'll try to get some feedback quickly in the next day or so on the first exam, so you can see what I was looking for, and if you didn't do quite as well as you or I had hoped, then on the second one, knock it out of the park. And if everything else is going great, that should leave you in good position for the class. All right. I've opened up the third week. While we're here, let's go ahead. So yeah, it's the same structure. There's several readings, some websites, several videos, some longer frontline videos, a couple quizzes, and the forums. And then you can see here, these two questions are a little bit more refined. I'd encourage you in some way to go ahead and start looking at these. Basically, you get online. It's a link. I believe it's earlier in this. Let's see here. Let's see here. Oh yeah, up here. New York Times, you fix the budget. So you may want to check out that article, and basically you can click on, so you don't have to do the numerical calculations. You can say, well, I want to cut the military. Okay, comes back to this central idea in economics that there's trade-offs. Well, if you do that, then maybe you're putting our country as well as our servicemen and women at risk that are on the field, because we have a thin military force out there rather than a robust one that could cost a lot of money, though. Okay. And the second question is about a flat tax, and this is one where it's a normative question. So I think there's a lot of good things you could say about it, but there's also, we're comparing it really with a progressive tax. Should the wealthy pay a larger percentage, as we certainly do on federal taxes? A lot of people don't pay any federal taxes. And if you're wealthy, you pay on the last dollar 40%, roughly. Good part, almost half of what you're making after a while starts going to the federal government. That's a really high income, but nevertheless. So again, there's all kinds of resources out there. Hopefully what I've given you in the week's reading gives you a good basis. Probably could write a very good question just based on that. But if you want to go out and check out blogs and some of the other sites, just Googling will turn up dozens of very good ones, hundreds of somewhat related ones that may be worth looking at, but you can't spend all day. So I've jumped ahead here a bit, but so week 3, be working through the quizzes, the forums, and then be working on exam 2 this week as well, to have it done by Sunday at midnight. So, all right. Welcome back from Labor Day, but now we got to get to work. So let me end this video and keep up the good work.